You're ready to go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Heather Knox, and I'm a GAB facilitator. I trained a couple years ago, and my husband and I, Greg Kemp, he's on here too. There he is. We live full time in Mexico, and so we just finished our eighth class in the
Hmm.
last year and absolutely love it. And I also do digital storytelling with people. We all things story related. So this is our monthly GAB chat. We alternate between morning sessions and afternoon sessions, so we can reach as many people as possible. What time is it where you are, Alice? Alice
It's
was in my.
12, 12 midnight.
There you
12
Midnight.
go.
midnight
She's in the
Usually Alice.
Philippines.
in the
Alice
Yeah.
is,
Philippines.
yeah, in the
I'm here in
Philippines.
the
So,
Philippines.
so Alice is our hardcore stay up all night and show up at every session. Alice and I studied together with Sherry and Heidi 2 years ago. So we're excited to welcome you to this to April's Gab Chat. And what we wanted to do was start with a quick intro, so we know who's in the room before we launch into our programming. So I'll go across my screen. Just say where you're from and your name and where you're from. And Marcia, you're showing up first.
I'm in Laguna Woods, same place as Cheryl
Oh,
Svensson.
Oh,
And I,
wow.
I trained about 3 years ago, and this is about, I'm in the fourth GAB class now.
Great.
Facilitating.
okay.
Great.
Let's
Welcome,
let's
Marcia.
say one thing. Let's just say your name and where you're from, because, like I said,
Okay.
we've got a lot to cover, and there were
Okay, sorry.
55 registered, so we'll see how many show up. Okay, Heather. Sorry.
Okay, Trudy, you're up.
It's Trudy Morris in Miami, Florida.
Welcome. Trisha.
Trisha Homrickhausen in Yorba Linda, California.
Awesome. Great. Cheryl.
I'm here in Laguna Woods. Cheryl Spencer. I should put my whole name up there. Laguna Woods, California.
Thank you. Sarah.
Sarah White, Madison, Wisconsin.
New
And Hail,
new
Hail Country.
interim executive director of the Beer Center. In fact, I'm going to ask anybody that's a board member to please put your hand up so we can identify you, so that you're going to be the ones picked on.
Haha.
Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Natz, and I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Carolyn.
I am Carolyn Young, and I am in Evanston, Illinois, just north of Chicago.
Great. Thanks, Carolyn. Teresa.
Teresa Townsend, Shenandoah Valley, Virginia.
Welcome. Mike, we'll save you till the end. No, go for it. No, go for it, Mike.
I'm Mike. I'm from Oxford, England.
Great. Happy you're here. Candida.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Candida Crew and I'm in Oxford, England.
Oh,
Excellent.
look at that.
Sorry, I pronounced your name wrong. I
No,
pronounced it
don't worry.
Spanish.
Don't
Candida.
worry.
Okay. Honey.
Tony Gutierrez, and I'm in Parrish, Florida.
Great. Nice to see you again. Sheila.
Sheila Merkel. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Great. Roger.
Roger Anionson. I'm from Oregon.
Oregon.
Great. Hi, Philip.
Philip Holden. I guess, Vancouver at the moment, sometimes Singapore.
Okay. Well, we're the same place. Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Levy. I'm on Salt Spring Island, British Columbia, just outside of Vancouver.
Nice. Steve.
I'm Steve Smith, and I'm in Costa Mesa, California.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Robin.
You're muted, Robin.
Hi. Robin Mincer, Irvine, California.
Welcome. Lisa.
You're muted, Lisa.
Muted.
Unmuted. I'm Lisa Levy, and I'm in Ithaca, New York, Western New York.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan Wall, and I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Cheyenne.
Hi, Cheyenne Dorsano, Central New York, in the city of Utica.
Oh.
Great. Welcome. Jennifer.
Jennifer Miller, Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sherry, your R is missing.
I know it came up that way. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm Sherry Coleman, Mission Viejo, California. Yay to all the Orange County people out there.
Hi, Kim.
Kim Alchemisti from San Carlos, California.
Great. Ansley?
I'm Ansley Dowenhauer. I'm from Midland, Michigan, the other side of the state from Grand Rapids, and I'm the incoming vice president of the board.
So you might want to raise your hand, Ansley.
Oh,
Great. Greg? Yes. The husband in the other room.
Yes, I'm Heather's co-conspirator. We're living in Ajijic, Jalisco, Mexico, but visiting Vancouver.
Thanks, Greg. Velma.
Velma Barber, Dayton, Ohio.
Dayton, Ohio.
Cindy.
Cindy Hydorn. I'm in Glen Ellen, Illinois, which is 30 miles west of the city of Chicago.
Thanks, Cindy. Stacy.
Hi, also in Illinois, Glencoe, north of the city of Chicago.
Oh, wow. We're going all over. Sylvia.
Paulsville, Washington.
Alice.
Alice Rosello, Manila, Philippines. Magandang umaga.
Thank you.
That's good morning to everyone.
Thank you.
Cheryl, can you send Barbara the link? She just emailed me.
Barbara
Smith.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz Dosa from Foster City, California.
Great. I don't know who this one is, 1-808-801. If you're hearing me, you want to unmute. Okay, I'm going to move on. Mally?
Hi, I'm Malie Bain. I'm on Nanaimo on Vancouver Island, just off of Vancouver in Canada.
Nice. Mally. Denise?
Denise Thompson, Moscow, Idaho.
Idaho.
Heather?
Hi, Heather Huddy from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
More Canadians, yay. Anna? Oh, no.
Yeah, it's Anna B., the Twin Cities, Minnesota.
Oh, great. Patrick?
Hi, Patrick McCleary, Dallas, Texas.
Wow. Linda D.
Hi, Linda Donahue, Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay, another one. Miles.
Hi, I'm Miles, and I'm in Ohlone Land in Oakland, California.
Great, welcome. John. You're muted. You're still muted. Okay, there you are.
It must have hit it twice. Hi, I'm John.
Yeah.
I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Great, welcome. Anita.
Oh, hi. Sorry.
Hi.
Yes, this is Anita Wong from Toronto, Canada.
Welcome, Anita. Another on Canada. Heliana.
Hi, from Argentina.
Oh,
bienvenido.
Oh, wow. My son wants to go there. He's hot for Malay. Loves Malay.
Hi, Kit.
Hi, having video problems.
Okay. We can hear you.
Great.
Where are you located?
I am in southern Missouri.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone.
I think there were a couple we missed. So if anybody, like I noticed Anna D, anybody else that didn't say your name and where you are, just say it now quickly. Well, I guess we have to.
Hi.
Go ahead.
I'm Andrea. I'm in Houston.
Houston. Okay,
welcome,
great.
Andrea. And Barbara, you made it. Want to unmute and tell us your name and where you're from? You're still
You're
muted.
muted. You're muted, Barbara.
Yeah, good morning. Barbara Smith. I'm San Diego.
Okay, great.
Great. Thanks, Barbara. Nice to see you.
Same.
Anybody else that I missed? Okay. So Cheryl and Sarah, I'm going to pass it to you to take it from here.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I am Cheryl Svensson. I realize my last name isn't up there. I'm not sure why, but I have the pleasure of having now been part of training 822 guided autobiography facilitators in 36 countries. We have our first student from Vietnam, and we have a few from India. I think Canada comes in second to the US for the number of GAB instructors. So welcome to everybody. I just want you to realize the diversity of the group. And somebody said, well, how do you know how many GAB courses have been taught? How many workshops? How many people you've reached? It'd be lovely to know that. But with this many people, I mean, say if each one of you, like Greg and Heather, have only done this, what, for a year, and they've done 8 classes, 6, 12 people in a class, there's thousands that we've reached. So this is our goal. So just to give you kind of the background, because today I had this fascinating talk with Mike Oak, one of my good friends and colleagues, somebody that I did get a chance to meet, even though he's in Oxford. And I go, Mike, this is something we should talk. It was a dialogue. He wasn't going to convince me, and I wasn't going to convince him of something. But we went back, and I go, this is something we should share. So this is kind of the seed of how this particular GAB chat was born. So then I got, well, Sarah's got to be part of this because she's actually the one that introduced me to Mike Oak. So we said, okay, we're each going to give our own perspectives, and we're going to show how that, because the thing about guided autobiography, for those of you who are not guided autobiography instructors, and I know there's some here because I forget where I've left my phone, but I definitely remember the stories and some of the names. And so I see some names here where some of you are GAB students or have taken a class but are not trained facilitators. So I want to show you how it can be adapted. And we've got some really brilliant ways that people are adapting it. So we thought we'd start with us, and I will give you the basic background of how it all came about. So Jim Beeren started and created this syllabus in the mid 1970s. And it wasn't something that was in his wheelhouse to do at all. Even though he knew Dr. Robert Butler, the geriatric psychiatrist who created Life Review, they had been colleagues in Washington and then in Maryland. And then Jim had gone in and started the School of Gerontology at USC in Southern California. So and Jim was a cognitive psychologist, but he realized the power of stories when he was on a sabbatical in Hawaii. So he was on a sabbatical and he had the class go out and write a story, and he saw how the class changed, the whole dynamics. So he came back to USC, he got his trusted graduate students together, and he asked them to start doing some research on autobiography, on memoir writing, on journaling. And this is in the 70s when it wasn't a big deal. And from that, he created a syllabus, and he offered the first guided autobiography courses in 1975 at USC at a summer institute. So it went every day, a 3-hour class every day for 2 weeks. And that's how and then he's written 3 books about it, and we've done countless research so that we show the difference that happens with taking guided autobiography. So it's not just something that, that's a fluke. It's not just a creative writing class. So the basic, I thought all of you have either been in a class or instructors know that the basic components are that everybody writes on the same theme. You don't want one person writing about the happiest moment in their life and somebody else writing about a loss. It would destroy, in my mind, the dynamic of the group. And every single person that writes on one of these themes, because you are all unique individuals, your story is different from everybody else's. Even if you choose the same question out of that theme, there's usually like 10 questions. So even if you choose the same question, your story is going to be different. So it's writing, and you do the writing at home. It's a small group process. So it's not one-on-one, which is one of the contingents I get in with Mike Oak. It builds on the process of working in the small group. So sometimes You may not have the answer or know the response to give somebody that had something happen, but somebody in that group has. And I don't know, it's always worked that way for me. So I don't know, I'd be interested to see if other people have that same experience. But by doing that, you realize that we're all more alike than we are different. You begin to see other people like yourself by going through that. You go, oh, you start the class and you go, what am I ever going to have in common with John? Here he is he's 25 years old and he lives in New York. And, I visited New York, but I don't know anything about it. And then by the time John has finished his fourth story, I'm going, gee, John, we have a lot in common. We both like to ride bicycles. We both like nature. We both do yoga. Let's meet for coffee. But of course, I'm in California. So you begin to pull the group together and the group gets to know one another. And you begin to know yourself differently because they share things about your story. You get the feedback. So it's a small group. It's the writing the stories and sharing them. And it's the feedback to me that make guided autobiography unique. Now, we never rehearse this, any of us. So Mike and Sarah, you're going to have to say, okay, Cheryl, that's enough. But I just want to say one thing before I turn it over to my trusted colleagues here, that Jim Beeren never, ever wanted it only to be about guided autobiography. So he chose the name, the Beeren Center for Autobiographical Studies. Now, Robin is here with me, and she was there when we voted on names. We tried to think of names. We had Institute, we had International, all these different names we went through. He didn't really want Beeren in it, but we said, what the heck? We knew he was an icon in the field, so we said, no, it's got to be Beeren. So the Beeren Center for Autobiographical Studies was a name that we all chose. And even then, Robin helped me, I think it was back in early 2000s, we expanded guided autobiography. So I created the guided autobiography 2 syllabus that was meant to extend the guided autobiography basic set of themes, and it was meant to go deeper. And I also thought at that time that everybody that took it wanted to do a book. Well, you don't all want to make a book. But everybody comes back because you want to keep writing your story. And you don't want new people. You want that same little group of people that you know. You know their stories and you know them and you want them to come back and be in your special group. So, and then we created family history, which Robin and Gianna Taylor created.
Yeah.
So it was family history. It was like, okay, well, because Jim Beeren had gone back to a genealogy conference in Boston and he brought back this book, that they had given him. And it was actually called Shaking the Family Tree. Sarah, I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was how the whole idea for that title came out. And he goes, well, we need a family history theme because not everybody, in fact, most people say, oh, I don't have a story to tell. I'm just, my life was boring, but you should talk to, Uncle Harry. He was in the war and he did this and he did that. His story is worth sharing. So your family history, how are those values passed down? Are there some values that you're ready to get rid of? Maybe your early family was a member of the Ku Klux Klan and you go, oh my God, that's the history, but that's not where I am. So some of those values and things that have been passed down can be let go. And then we also did life portfolio because Jim was at an age where he was very frugal, very frugal. And he knew how to stretch a dollar and he had all of his, at that time he was in his 80s. I mean, he lived to be almost 98. So he was moving into his mid 80s. And he thought, first of all, he said, nobody should retire. But if you do, you have to have something to retire to. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? You could live 20 years more, 25 years. I think life expectancy now is like 78. So if you retire early or at 65, you've got 15, 20, 25 years yet. How are you going to spend it? So life portfolio was born, and it was using the metaphor of a financial portfolio, but looking at money and at time, your time as, as the investment of money. So we created a whole life portfolio class. So all I want to say is that autobiographical studies encompasses personal historians. It encompasses life reviewists. We have some very hardcore people that believe in life review. Jim joined the International Institute for Reminiscence and Life Review, which was started, oh gosh, I think it was like in 1990, way before Jim Beeren, with Dr. Butler, and Jim Beeren was the second major person that John Kuntz, the founder, pulled in. So we've always been a part, and now it's called ICLIP, which is the International Center for Life Story Innovation and Practice out of the University of Connecticut. So we've pulled these people in to keep guided autobiography, not just as guided autobiography, but as a life story work, let's call it that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was blessed to be able to carry on the legacy. I started teaching online in 2009, and I figured, so we've been a nonprofit now for 3 years. We are doing well. We have a brilliant new executive interim director. She likes to keep reminding me as we work our way through this. A new board coming in who's working with us and are brilliant, and some young faces, which we need. So I encourage all of you to keep involved, keep engaged. We can always we're setting up teams to get help. I've pulled Honey into the GAB Gazette, kind of kicking her heels, but coming in. We are, as you'll see by listening to this talk today, everybody is so engaged and engaging that, you're going to love working with us. Okay. And I want to encourage all of you, if you have a question, type it into chat or raise your hand, and Heather will get to you. I like to be interrupted because I can go off on tangents. So,
but meanwhile, let's have everyone mute just so there's no background distraction, and then yeah, raise your hand and I'll ask you to unmute if you have something to interrupt.
Perfect. So I'm going to turn this over to Sarah, who came, no, to Mike. It goes to Mike first, right, Sarah? We talked about this. See, I've already got it wrong.
Yeah, you need to hand the mic to Mike.
Mike, the mic is all yours. You're on.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I feel that I'm with kindred spirits. I've known Sarah for 20 plus years, known Cheryl for, I guess, a similar time. You've been to my house, you've been to Oxford. It's lovely. We're with friends, and it's fabulous. And when I initially came across the Association of Personal Historians, which many of you may have heard of, Sarah was heavily involved in that as a leading light. And the idea of the Association of Personal Historians, again, like-minded people working in biography, autobiography, tended to be in two themes. One was in the written word, and one was sort of oral, video. There were various deviations from that, but it was all a love of biography and autobiography. I'm certainly on the written side, but there's people. So I've been invited. I don't know what you want to speak about today. I mean, what I do, I don't concentrate my work to themes. I work with the whole life of somebody. I help people to write their life stories. I've been doing it for 34 years now. I've done over 300 books. We had 7 franchises at one stage, another one of which was in Sweden, all the rest are in Europe. Well, sorry, Sweden is Europe, all the rest are in England. So yeah, but where I differ from GAB is that I work on a one-to-one basis. I work with individuals. It is my full-time job. It has supported me and my family for the last 34 years exclusively. I've never had another job since I've started doing this. So it is a profession. I would imagine some of you perhaps do this as a hobby, some maybe to earn some income. I don't know if any of you are full-time and this is your sole income. If it is, well done. I think we probably all find the difficulty is getting clients in the first place and getting people on the course. Mm-hmm. Because I work one-to-one, I only need to get one person. And that one person I'll be working with usually anything from a year to 2 years. And typically those clients will pay anything from maybe $6,000 to maybe $20,000. Just finished a book recently, and we worked together for 18 months. And he paid $50,000. I was seeing him twice a month. I was writing his book for him. Most of the people I work with, like with you, originate their own material, which is the beauty of what we do. Because I had the privilege of working with a chap, Roy Barton, my first ever client. This is his book. So the reason I called it bound biographies because initially they were leather bound books, and obviously production has changed significantly since then. I mean, there are some photos in here, quite a few photos. I can't find one, but they're now digitally printed. But this was Roy's book, and we subsequently did a second book. But I was asked to speak at his funeral, which was a huge honor, and I didn't know what to say. And so I thought I'd talk about how Roy met and married his wife, Margaret. Now, Roy was a bit like me. He wouldn't use one word where 27 does just as well. And so it was quite woolly. And I read about how they met and married. And his son, who was a GP, a doctor, came up to me afterwards and said, "Dad will never die." That was Dad speaking through those words. And that was when I realized I'd stumbled across something. If the client writes the material, it helps enormously because by definition, they like what they've written. I then become more of an editor, and I tidy it up and hopefully make it better still. So they like what they've written. It also means that I can work with 6, 8, 10, 12 people at a time. It's much harder work where you do the writing. Most of your clients, they write their own material, so you know how easy it is. They love writing. When they get into it, they can't stop. So doing a whole book is fabulous. And the other thing is, I find, because there's a product at the end, a book, you can charge more rather than just a course. I was really intrigued, Cheryl, when you said about making a book, and presumably some of your clients do end up with their material in his book. Is that correct?
They can if they wish. And we have lots of especially now with self-publishing, there's many ways to do it. And some of the instructors, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but yes, they can. But it's not the intense work that you put in, Mike.
Well, I don't tend to work on the same themes. I mean, Cheryl and I have had these debates on this. You go into quite a deep level. You talk about faith, you talk about values, you talk about money, the sorts of things that we Brits don't tend to talk about. We're sort of sorry, who's my colleague over here who was after me? Was it who was from Oxford as well, Candide? Yeah, I don't know if Candida, I don't know if you agree with that, but most of my clients are grandparents writing for the grandchildren, or maybe they want to remember their parents or a partner who's died, or even sadly a child. And so, yeah, they're almost writing they're writing about themselves. Some books are joint; it'll be a husband and wife, or partners, or even cousins. I've had work together, but the end result is always a book, and consequently, because I give them 10 books at the end, they can have more if they wish. I can charge more of a probably a significant sum than what you are charging. And all I can say is I know it's odd, but it's worked. As I say, it's kept me for 34 years. I know that Sarah has used this concept as well and used the whole premise, and you can talk about it as well. It's amazing. It's not earth-shattering, but it just works. And it's a true privilege. The biggest problem I have is with weight, because I have too many cups of tea and bits of cake and biscuits. I always meet in person. It's one-to-one in person. Only during COVID did I meet online. The thing with England, it's a curse and it's an advantage. We're very heavily populated into a small space. So within 3 hours of where I live, I've probably got access to 40 million people. So you don't have that advantage in the States. And it is a numbers game. Tomorrow I will be 2 hours away in a lovely place called Chichester. I'm actually working with the son of a chap I worked with 30 years ago. I'm
Oh
working
my
with
gosh.
three clients whose parents I've done a book with, and I'm now working with the children. And it's a true privilege. 9 of my clients came to our wedding. You get to know people really, really well. It's a true privilege. I've worked with the chimney sweep, and I've worked with the chairman of Barclays Bank, and all sorts of different people. This is your session, it's not mine. Please
No.
ask questions.
Yeah, no.
You'll gather I'm not short of things to say. And I just love it, and it's a privilege to share it with you guys. So thank you.
Mike,
And I have
Mike, I have a question for you from Stacy.
Yeah.
She'd love to know if any of the books have enjoyed a commercial success. Is that ever a goal? That's a great question.
Very, very, very few. This chap, he was I don't know if you can see the book. He
Yeah,
was a
we can.
Toastmaster, which is again something quintessentially British. If you look on the back there, I don't know if you can see the pictures, but
Yeah.
we've got Nelson Mandela, we got Margaret Thatcher, we've got the no, well, who are these people up here? You probably know them better than me. The Beverly Sisters. I don't know if you can see that.
So explain this, Mike. You said the twist master?
Toastmaster.
Toastmaster.
So,
Excuse me.
so an MC at a big event.
Okay,
He will
got
be
it.
doing the
Got it.
introduction. It's a kind of British type
Yep.
thing.
No, got it.
It's like,
Yeah.
but he's worked with royalty and everybody. He had 1,000 books, but he knew a lot of people when he did a function. A lot of people knew him well, and he'd say, if you want a book. No, I don't get involved in publishing. One chap, we had a shop called Clinton Cards over here. They've got 1,000 shops. He ordered 20,000 books, but he sold them in his shop. So that's different. I try and avoid the word publisher. I'm not a publisher. It gives the wrong impression. It gives the impression of vanity publishing, which we're certainly not. We are writing, primarily, we work, as I say, with grandparents who are looking to write for the grandchildren, that sort of person. They're not all, a lot of people haven't got children. They just want to write a book. I always ask why they're writing. And often they'll say it's to remember my parents, to remember a partner. I love it when people say, actually, I'm doing it for me. We don't tend to have that confidence in England. Again, with Candide, probably agree with me, Candida. It's more, yeah, they're more likely to do it for somebody else rather than themselves.
Mike,
Good
I
for
have
you.
another question from Mally. It was so interesting to hear your approach. How do you find your clients, and do you ever teach group classes of any kind, directly GAB or not?
I've taught many classes. Getting the clients is always the problem. Always the problem. But in 34 years, I've never been short of work. I'm actually now approaching retirement. I'm turning clients down, which is a lovely position to be in. I'm cherry picking. It's difficult. It's a numbers game. I advertise in a couple of retirement magazines. I've given talks. One thing that I'd encourage all of you to do, and all of you can do it, some of you may have done it. I've written a couple of books. One is called How to Write Your Life Story. And the other, which I think is better, is called Times of Our Lives, which follows a typical life of someone who was born actually the back end of the Second World War. So we're talking perhaps born in 1930 or 40. They're both books are over 20 years old. The beauty of writing a book is that people think you're an expert. And you can all write a book. We have this amazing sanctity for books, for authors. There's something about if you've written a book, wow, you can all write a book. You are all experts on yourself. I don't care. You can get these books. You can plagiarize them as much as you like, put your name on it and say how to write, because suddenly you've written a book and people think you're an expert. No more having written it than you did before, but actually it does give some kudos, which helps. I was very, very lucky that the Daily Telegraph sponsored these books. The Daily Telegraph is quite a big newspaper in the UK, up there with probably the Washington Post or the New York Times. I mean, obviously we've got the Times in England, but the Telegraph is probably, and the Financial Times are probably, second to that. Where I wasn't so lucky is that there's a picture of my mother-in-law there, but hey, you can't win them all. She was that's my wife there, and that's my father-in-law. My parents are on this one. It's lovely. But it's there. This follows a typical life of someone born, as I say, in the 19, say, 40s, 50s. And every time there's a black bar, that's an anecdote from someone I've worked with. And they're talking about their life. They're talking about their childhood. They're talking about their grandparents. They're talking about their school days, their first loves, their first job, all those sorts of things. And we've all the sorts of things that you do in GAB classes. I tend to work at a more intimate level with clients. And so I ask them, and this is, you may find this, that maybe you can't do it so much in a class, but you can certainly do it one-to-one. You can ask people the sorts of things you never ask your parents. It's amazing. There's no baggage. And everything we discuss is obviously confidential and it stays that way. And obviously, only what they want to go in the book appears in print. So we'll discuss many things that do not appear in the book. And that's essential, obviously. But there's all sorts of things that we discuss. I'm can I say this? I was with a client and I said to her, "Are you having an affair?" And she said, "Why do you ask?" I said, "Because I said it's doesn't bother me one way or the other, but I think I can see in your writing that you are having an affair." And the reason I say that's a concern is because if you are, and as a result of this book, if your marriage splits up, I don't want to be held responsible. You know, if all I'm saying is if I can see it, I think other people can see it. She said, "Oh, it's all right. My husband's dead from the neck downwards. Doesn't matter." She'd actually gone back to a school reunion and she mentioned a previous boyfriend and just the bells started ringing. She left it in the book. It was up to her. It's fine. There were no repercussions. Apart from the fact that she used to tell her husband she was coming down to see me about the book and she wasn't. She was seeing. I'm still in touch with this lovely lady, but all I'm saying is it's amazing what you can ask. It's a very intimate situation. You have to be very, very careful you don't go into areas that you can't close, or at least, people tell you all sorts of things, as I'm sure they do in your classes. But actually, it's far easier on a one-to-one that people will tell you things than they would necessarily in a class. I'm sure many people in your classes are very open, but there might be a limit as to what you'll share with 6, 8, 10 people than you would on a one-to-one. And I've not told you that lady's name, so it's okay. I'm protected.
The husband probably never read the book, Mike.
He probably didn't. I don't know. He was a nice guy, but yeah. Anyway, that was up to them. I was just trying to protect myself. That was all.
No.
We often hear in our classes people say things like, "Now you know me better than my husband. You know things about me that my husband doesn't know." Maybe it's time for me to leap in here.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Shut me up.
So I kind of came to guided autobiography and personal history work together. I discovered them at the same time. In the early 2000s, I was trying to pivot away from working in marketing and advertising. I had published a couple of books through commercial publishers in the how-to vein, an advertising how-to book, A Complete Idiot's Guide to Marketing. So I'd become familiar with the publishing and writing process. I was gaining confidence as a writer, but I was fed up with thinking about advertising and marketing and looking for some other way to use my talents. And I was introduced to a personal historian, one of the founding members of the Association of Personal Historians. And right there, I saw that's what I want to do. That uses what I know about writing and publishing, but gives me a whole new field to work in. It's working with individuals rather than with businesses. This is new. This appealed to me. And so I began to take classes in oral history, interviewing, and to study the oral history approach that personal historians were doing. They were mostly interviewing their clients and then writing in their voices if they were doing books like Mike and I do, or they were simply recording oral interviews and producing them either as audio or video, like making biopics. But I wasn't interested in the video approach, I being a book person. And about that time, well, actually, it was the personal historian I met said, "Do you know about Tim Bieran's book?" And I got a copy of the Telling the Stories of Life through Guided Autobiography. And I knew right away I wanted to try teaching. I wanted to find a memoir writing group I could join, and there didn't seem to be one in town, but I had Biren's book. So I said, I'm going to do this. I put up signs around town until I had 10 people. I asked them, does anybody have a room where we can meet? One of them was a preacher, and he said, you can use my church. So I'm getting weird messages from Zoom here. So anyway, I was off and running with my first GAB class in 2004. And I continued to teach guided autobiography at first for several years, and then I began to develop more of a writing-based curriculum with, things about story arc and character development and setting that are touched on a tiny bit in the Biren curriculum, but there's not a lot of writing craft there. And being a journalist and writer myself, I felt I had more to offer in that area than in the more psychological, therapeutic aspect of guided autobiography. Slowly over time, I grew more confident and pivoted back towards teaching guided autobiography more. But it's always been part of my work as a personal historian. I have been full-time self-supporting as a personal historian since 2008, I think, was when I last had a part-time job to help supplement the income. And the story with Mike begins in 2008 when we both attended an APH conference. I believe it was in Nashville, Tennessee that year. And, everybody talks to everybody at these conferences. Basically, it's like being in school for a week. You go to various workshops, and in between you have hallway conversations and breakouts and lunches. And Mike and I are talking one day in the lobby of the hotel, and he's saying, I can't believe you people do this in such a difficult way. All this interviewing, all this writing, that must take so much time. I make my clients write their books. And the light bulb just went on, like, oh, that's how to do this. Because I had always found two things. It's difficult to find people who will pay you the amount of money it takes to interview and then write in their voice. And then they very seldom like it. I had so much trouble getting people past. They loved the interview process. It was, you might interview them for 8 or 12 or 20, or they love it so much, 30 hours, 40 hours. But when you sit down to write and turn that into something in their voice, they're not experienced writers. They're not used to seeing it. They don't know what to think. And just about all of my projects just ended at that point. It was like, nope, we're good. We've got the transcripts and the audio recordings, and the family will love those. Thank you very much. Cancel the book project. What am I doing wrong? How am I going to get over this? And I meet Mike, and he says, make them write the book. So I asked him to coach me on how do I do this? How do I pivot? How do I make them write the book? Well, this is a natural fit with guided autobiography. As you can see, it gets people writing. And you're absolutely correct to say when they write it, they like it. They invested in it, and they chose the words, and they put on paper what they wanted to put on paper. Anyway, Mike has this innovative method he was teaching his franchisees on how to launch by getting a partnership with a media, a magazine or a newspaper, have them run a memoir contest, and the winner gets to write their book with you. And I followed this to the letter. I got the local city magazine, Madison Magazine, interested in doing the contest. We had 53 entries in the contest, I think. I got real lucky because the guy who won, and we had a panel of judges, the editor from the magazine, me, and Anita Heck, the personal historian who had introduced me to all this. She also was a licensed therapist, and kind of her job was to see to it that we didn't select somebody who was going to bring damage or be damaged by the process. Anyway, I was lucky in that the guy who won had already done some writing in another kind of writing workshop, and his stories were good. And so I very quickly was able to finish and publish a book with him and fulfill the contest obligation. And then, of course, I had the other 52 people to follow up with and say, well, I'm sorry you didn't win the contest, but would you like to write your book with me and pay me money? And I was off and rolling. So today, I shifted. I prefer to work in the writing partner approach. I do still do the ghostwriting, the interviewing and writing in someone else's voice when the money is good and the person appeals to me and we make it over the hump of them liking my writing. But basically my model is I teach the workshops, mostly guided autobiography, occasionally other things. Now I'm adding Shaking the Family Tree for the first time this summer. That out of every workshop, out of every 10 or 12 people I meet, at least one will ask about one-on-one coaching. I'll just mention it. I'm not real hard sell, obviously. But almost every workshop produces somebody who wants to continue with one-on-one coaching. And we do that for 9 months or a year, where I essentially have them write. I read back to them what they wrote, giving them live feedback, editing as we go, just as the first reader. I call it first reader reaction, basically. Oh, that was interesting. You should go into that more. Oh, that was unclear. I need you to tell me more, untangle how that happened. After 9 months or a year, they have enough written for, they've got their life story or the segment. It's often a coming of age memoir. Or I have a guy who's back to me after doing his farm boy coming of age. Now he's doing You're in the Army Now, which is what happened after he graduated and left home. And then I take them through the book publishing process, get a copy editor, layout, photos, and my books are pretty much follow a template because I've figured out what works well for this kind of book, what size type, what size margins. I used to do the layout myself because I had learned that when I was in marketing and advertising and learned desktop publishing. But now I mostly use subcontractors for the copy editing and the layout and design work. And then we print them through print on demand, as few or as many books as the person wants. And I always encourage them to end with a launch party. This is, what the end of the life cycle for me is, that party where we're at their farm or their health club or wherever they want to hold the party. And everybody is seeing grandpa signing the books and handing them out. And there's tea and cookies and there's laughter and there's tears. And from that, there's usually somebody in the room who'll follow up with me and say, now, how did they do? What would it cost? Where do you teach? And the cycle goes round again. So that's my approach.
Can I just, Sarah, just a moment?
Yeah.
I don't know if you do this, but I've started doing it a lot now. Because when the book finishes, they often want a follow-on project. They really enjoyed the process. I'm encouraging them to record their writing onto a smartphone, and so that the grandchildren or whoever the family have got their voice as well. And I was at a funeral about 18 months ago, a lovely, lovely chap. We'd done 3 books together. He was a real raconteur, and they knew he'd written the books, but they didn't know he'd recorded them. And I had 20 memory sticks with me at the funeral, and I was just handing them out, and they were just so appreciative because they've got his voice now as well. And I listened back to it. It was just such a rich voice. And
I see. You're saying to read the book aloud, like making an audio book of it, not the transcripts of the original conversations.
No, read their book. And actually, better still,
Yeah.
Sarah, if you can get them to read it prior to it being printed, it's another way of proofreading because they might they're reading. But the other thing, whilst they're reading it, there will be interruptions. The phone will go. This particular chap, they had a grandfather clock that actually came from Charles Dickens, and they called the clock Dickens. And every so often on the hour, oh, there goes Dickens again, and he'll go off into another little anecdote. And so they got more than there was in the book, which of course, if it's about granddad, is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great. I love that, Mike. Sarah, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
Kit says, so glad you told this, Sarah. My project's all stunted at the same place you described. Is there a process list you or Mike can share for this style of project?
I tend to go, I mean, I do it through my mind. I have it in my head. It's just someone's life story. I mean, this follows through. I mean, if I read to you some of the chapter headings, it is meeting the family, introducing yourself, and then I say childhood home, describe the house, the kitchen, the power supply, modern technology, whatever modern was at the time, the front room, the hall, the stairs. I mean, it's all about anecdotes, and no detail is too small. And when you're with a client that something sparks them. It might be a song, a sound, a food, or something. I was asking this guy to describe a house, okay? And often they'll talk about, which door do you go in, the back door, the front door, is it locked, is it open, whatever. And you ask all these minutiae questions. And he wanted to talk about his bedroom, which is okay. And it was the usual things, he could see his breath in front of his face in the winter because it was cold. He could see ice on the inside of the window. We're a bit more antiquated over here. I mean, okay, we're going back 30, 40 years. This guy was quite old at the time, but they had what they call a gazunda. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a pot under the bed because they had an outside toilet, and it's called a gazunda. It's called a gazunda because it goes under the bed. Okay,
Gazunda.
anyway,
It's a chamber pot over here.
Gazunda. Oh my God.
It's a chamber pot.
Under the bed. Oh my God.
He was talking about. He suddenly talked about his brother, Wolfie. This guy was Jerzy. He was Czechoslovakian, Jerzy, George, and he was talking about his brother Wolfie, and he said, and this is bordering more on the GAB, so you'll appreciate this. He was saying that what always bugged him was that the moon always shone on Wolfie's bed, never on his.
Oh.
So one day he said to Wolfie, "Why does the moon shine on you and not me?" Well, Wolfie was, I don't know, a couple of years older than Jerzy. He was maybe, I don't know, 9, 10. And he said, "Well, the moon only ever shines on little boys who are good." And this really winding his brother up. Well, this really bugged George. Anyway, 3 or 4 nights later, he woke in the middle of the night. The position of the moon had changed and it was shining on him. And he said he really felt that God was saying he was special. And I just thought, I wish I knew that about my granddad. What a wonderful one. So we're looking for little anecdotes. And it's all about one more, otherwise I'll bore you stupid, but one more. I was asking this lady about her grandmother, and she said, well, my grandmother was very severe looking and came across as quite strict, but she wasn't. And she said she had a great sense of humor. I said, well, can you give me an example? So she thought for a bit, and then she said, okay, Grandma, she wore widow's weeds. Do you know what that is? It's all in black. Granddad had died, so she wore widow's weeds, they were called. All in black, tight bodice, big skirt, hair in a bun, all grey. And she looked quite foreboding, but she had this great sense of humour. She said, my brother and I, one day we were playing on the carpet. It wasn't fitted carpet. There were only rag rugs. That's what it was like during the war. But anyway, we were playing there and we heard the latch on the front gate go. It was the district nurse come to give us our cod liver oil to keep us regular. We hated it. Anyway, there was Gran. Before you know, she said, quick, quick, quick. We hid under her skirt. And the district nurse comes in. No, sorry, not seeing them. They must be out playing. We got away with it. We got away. How much more does that say about Granny than saying she had a great sense of humour? It's all about anecdote. So
you're very good at drilling for the anecdote that shows the character trait, Mike. I can see how the detailed questions. To me, the process list is, I start with the structured life review typically and explain, what that is and say, this gives me a sense of this arc of your full life. And then we'll do follow-up interviews and drill in on what seems to be the turning points or the part that you're excited about, because some people really want to do like their work biography, other people a family biography. But that gives me a sense of the narrative arc. And the other thing I want to say is that after I went back to school and got a master's in creative nonfiction writing, that seemed to flip the switch and my clients began accepting the manuscripts that I wrote in their voice. So somehow I learned something at grad school that made me a better writer. And that's how I got past the projects that die on delivery of the first sample chapter.
I just want to say one thing. This is to you, Mike. You at one time, whether you still do or not, you had a course that you published on your website. Because I remember going in, it was writing your life story. And you had listed, I see you smiling, you had listed, and I don't know if it was really a course because I actually went in and printed out. I thought they were great, your reasons for writing, knowing your audience, the different types of project, getting organized.
I have still got it. If anyone wants it, get in touch.
Well,
and
I'll
send you a link. It's I did try and get it through one of these online things where you could teach yourself, and it didn't get any pickup on that. But no, I've got about 20 hours worth of videos on it, and there's some notes. I'm quite happy if anyone wants to email me. I'm quite happy to send a link. or we can put it up on I'll put it on Gab. I mean, I'm quite happy
I was
for
going to
that.
say, you should have reached
Yeah,
out to the Buren Center, to Sarah and I, Mike. We would have helped you out. But
I
anyway, I think
should.
that's,
Oh dear,
see,
wait, I missed
it's
the trick. I'm
never too
asking.
late.
Take it. It's yours. You're very
Yeah,
welcome to it.
yeah, it's never too
great.
late. Anyway, he has it up there.
Great, thanks. Sarah, another question. Personal history work seems very solitary and entrepreneurial, but where might a budding personal historian make a living working with a team at an established organization?
That is a really excellent question because that is the biggest challenge. This is what we found in the Association of Personal Historians. A lot of people just aren't cut out to be good enough at all the aspects of running a business and delivering the product, the service. And we would do better to group up into businesses. I really don't know of anyone who is running a firm, hiring people and doing it that way, although we keep getting approached by services that purport to do that, and they're basically matching between ghostwriters and clients who reach them. I would say join the Personal Historians Facebook group because that is where we talk to each other. And when somebody gets one of these inquiries from a commercial firm, they'll often post there and say, have you heard of these people? Who's worked with them? What do you know about them? And the general opinion is they pay very poorly. That's how they make money as the matchmaker, is to charge the client a lot and pay the ghostwriter a little. But it does provide a structured job and you don't have to be all and all market yourself and everything. So go to Facebook and look for the Personal Historians group and ask to join. And that'll get you into the network at least.
Great, thanks for that. A question for you, Mike. How do you know when the book is done? Seems like they
That's a
would
good
go on
question.
for a long time. Also, do you use AI to edit their writing?
I've never used AI. Actually, that's not true. I'm working with a chap who was born in India in 1947. Sorry, 43. So it's the middle of the Second World War, 4 years before partition. You've got the caste system and everything else. So I did ask AI to give me 500 words, which did help. But no, I don't use AI essentially. I'm glad that my career is coming to an end before AI kicks in any
Yeah.
way. I just like working with individuals. So yeah, sorry, that was one part of the question with AI. What was the second part?
The
Sorry.
other one was, how do you know when the book is done?
Um, there becomes a natural conclusion. We always end on a high saying, I hope you like the book, but be warned, I'm planning on doing another one in 10 years' time. I finished a book with a chap just before Christmas. The book was called 101 Not Out, so you can gather his age. That's a reference to cricket. If any, cricket's a fun game over in England, and I absolutely love it. Sadly, he's subsequently died, so if he has any reprints, we'll have to call it 101 Declared. But we do. I try and end up on a high in that sense. Sometimes there will be a sequel naturally because it's only, as Sarah said, a certain part of their lives. You tend to know, you get the difficulty, and I'm sure you get this with GAB, that they actually don't want it to stop and they want
Right.
it to continue.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
often the family want it to continue because they know that it's doing dad or gran or whoever a great deal of good. I'm sad to say I'm the highlight of some people's month, but you find that, don't you? A
You
lot of
touch on a problem there, and I think that's part of why people don't care so much about the manuscript. They love the interviewing process so
Right.
much they never want it to be over.
Well, the same thing happens with GAB. Anybody
Yeah.
that's taught a class, you know that, and they don't
Right.
want a new people. They want the same people.
But at least as GAB instructors, we can turn it over to them and feel free to organize and keep meeting, and we don't have to keep
That's true. We have
doing
done
it.
that.
Whereas with the one-on-one writing approach, I have a client who's on year 3 of interviews, and we've written a book, and now the interviews are about reviewing it and adding and tweaking, but it's clearly babysitting granddad. Now I love the guy, I love the family. It's all the money. Oh my God, it's so good. But I really think they're going to keep me employed doing this until he passes away.
I was going to say
we meet weekly.
That's a great point because I think even Mike, you mentioned this. There comes a point where the client may die or become ill and not be able to continue, or develop dementia to a certain extent, right?
Amazingly, in over 300 books, a client's only died on me twice. And I've got a
Really?
little theory for that because it keeps them going.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But often you'll be working with someone in the family as well. And like with Roy, my first ever client, we knew that he was wilting and we had to get the book finished.
Yeah.
And this was his second book. And yeah, he died 6 weeks after we finished it. But it had kept him going because he was waiting for the birth of his granddaughter. And 9 months later, we were still working on the book. So it served its purpose. But yeah, you get a feel for these things and you know when they're slowing down. And you want them to enjoy the book because actually, once the book comes out, that gives them another year or two of the fun of sharing the book,
sharing it.
getting in touch, old friends getting in touch because someone passed it to someone who
Oh,
passed it
yeah.
to someone else. And so they're suddenly in touch with people they've not been in touch with for years. So there's a whole new dynamic that evolves after the book is finished, and you want them to enjoy that. So yeah, you have to gauge it.
I love that theory, Mike. Sarah, you just mentioned your graduate work and degree. I'd like to know if you, Sarah and Mike, feel you need to have special credentials to do this work for clients to take you seriously, understand the value of what you offer. Well, you mentioned you hit on that where
Write a book. Yeah, write a book.
Write a book.
Write a book. It gives you so much kudos. It really does. Suddenly you become an expert and you can do it quite easily with, you only need to print 4 or 5 copies, but give them one. And what you say is, this is my latest book. You don't tell them it's your first. You say it's your latest book.
Yeah, that's a really good point because in the personal history field, we would generally tell people if they want to work in books, you have to produce a book to use as a sample and to get out there and show people that you can do it. So yeah, having the tangible book. And I think the anthologies are a wonderful tangible book for GAB instructors to use.
Right.
But yes, I think being able to say that you have the credential of a GAB instructor, we hear from a lot of people that that's important. It's a differentiator, and it's very helpful when you're going in and pitching a partner organization like a senior center or a library to say this is part of an organized thing that I have a credential in. I don't know how much having the MFA makes a difference to the people that I work with, but it doesn't hurt. And I got from the experience everything I hoped as far as improving my writing and my ability to do books at a commercial, publishable level of writing.
It probably
I wanted to say something about
it probably boosts your confidence too.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I present with more confidence, knowing I know what I'm doing and have a degree to prove it. Something about the commercial success of books. I never encourage people to like write the book proposal and pitch a publisher and go that route. But I have seen several clients experience quite a good book sales through local history societies and museums in the town where they grew up. They wrote about a time and place that a whole lot of people shared and haven't written books about. I have this guy who grew up on the North Dakota plains on a farm. It's the most simple, ordinary story it could be, but it's well written. He tells great anecdotes. But it's basically the life story of every farm boy who ever grew up on the Great Plains.
Yeah.
And he's sold more than 150 copies. It's been out for about 2 years now. He keeps getting orders from the local history museum to ship him another 10 or 15 copies. He couldn't be more thrilled.
That's great.
That's great, but it's lovely. But you're talking modest numbers. I always talk people down because often they want a bestseller. And I say, if you want that, I'm not your person because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I say to them, where do you buy your books? And they say, I go to charity shops. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I say to them, I've got a great book here. Would you give me 10 quid for it or $15 or whatever? And they say no, because I've never heard of the person. Say, well, sorry, but it's going to be the same with yours. And I always say, I'd rather sit with you in 2 years' time and with a bottle of champagne and say, well done, you're a bestseller, rather than you come back to me in 2 years' time and you say, Mike, why did you let me do it? I've only sold 12 copies.
And I have a box of 500 under my desk.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about some of the finances and how the money, or is that something that floats your boat?
Let
Sure.
me
Because
let me get through two more comments,
yeah,
questions so that I can stay on top of it. So Mally shares with us that she has a very small but company that hires ghostwriters, editors, etc. from time to time, depending on the project. It's called Next Gen Story Custom Publishing, and you can email her. It's in the chat if you want to learn more. Lisa asks, when people write sequels, is it because they're doing a deeper dive into some chapter of their lives? How else are sequels distinct from the original?
I've just finished this book last month. I did the first book with this chap 13 years ago. He's now 92. He was looking for a hobby. We've updated things in the last 13 years. He had a couple of hotels that he sold, so we were able to put that in. And we've updated on the family. But actually, what I've done is I rejigged a lot of his early life, but put it in different ways. So I've said major influences in his life, and we've looked at hobbies and things. So I've restructured. So a lot of the information is in the first book, but he was just looking for a hobby. And actually, there is, but also what I've done this time, I got the children and the grandchildren all to write as well.
Oh, how
So they've
nice.
written about dad and about
That's a
granddad.
great idea.
His wife had also died in the interim, so I've got some of her friends to write about her. So we've actually, there are ways to expand it, and it's not difficult to start thinking of these things. And so there are, yeah,
That that's a
there's so
terrific
many.
that's a terrific idea, Mike, to bring in the family, to have them say things now while the person is still alive, rather than
Yeah.
after they're dead, and you're going to give a speech at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
eulogy. That's great.
And I would say when I've had clients come back for a second or third book, it's either because the first one was just a memoir of a certain period of their life, and now they're doing a memoir of another period of their life, or it's now I want to write about family members. I wrote the first book about me. Now I want to do a book about my mother and father,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Mike, when you referred to the term a vanity book, what does that mean? Somebody's asking.
We have a term in England called vanity publishing, and there was a whole despicable industry that would prey on people to say, write their book, and they led them to believe they were very careful, they wouldn't put it in writing in specifically. They led them to believe that the book would be sold and that they'd make money. You do not make
Mm.
money from writing your memoirs. Unless, I always say, unless you're sort of Princess Diana's love child or, or someone famous, we're in this odious world of celebrity.
Right.
And books by ordinary people, which are so much better than these so-called celebrities, they don't sell.
You're
So,
right.
but vanity publishing preys on that, and they lead them to believe that they will make money and you will not.
Okay, great. Um, we'll do one more and then we want to hear about the finances. Can you share what service you use to put the book together? There are so many options out there, so it would help to narrow it down. Also, the cost of the final published book.
The answer is I don't know. I employed a chap 20 years ago. He's gone independent since. You've met him, Cheryl. It's Tony.
Yeah,
He's
nice
actually
guy.
out in Italy giving a writing course at the moment to about 20
Wow.
people. Lucky man.
Wow.
He does all my book design, and he goes to any number of distributors to get them printed. I don't even know what he does, but I just pay him £300 a design, and we've been working together for 20 plus years. So there's ways and means you can do it. I don't, like Sarah, I don't get into that. My time can be better spent elsewhere. I feel
And,
embarrassed. I don't know how to do it, but
and I work with print on demand services as opposed to commercial publishers, so that that is the easiest part of the service. Like
yeah.
Mike, I have a graphic designer who I work with if I don't want to do the work myself. We've got the template worked out where she knows exactly what I want, and it's very efficient. So I pay a copy editor somewhere, we're talking about maybe a 150 page, 200 page book. I might pay 700 to 1,000 to a copy editor. I might pay 5 to 700 to the layout artist. So we're getting, upper 15, 1,700. And then you order the book and it's $10, or $5 if it's black and white and paperback. The cost of the first book is the books are the least in the chain.
That's right. It is. It's
right. So that's the production cost after I've finished doing whatever I do, whether it's one-on-one coaching or it's interviewing and writing in their voice. I generally tell people expect $4,000 to $7,000 for the either one. Less for the coaching, more for the one-on-one ghostwriting, and then just the set book production. I put it in an estimate to the person. Here's the phase for the manuscript creation, and then the copy editing, layout, printing.
Okay, great. Mike, do you want to touch on the finances? Do we have time, Cheryl, or is there something else
No, we're 12 after, and then we'll just open it up and ask people to talk.
Okay, great.
I'm going to tell you something that'll probably blow your minds, because it did when I spoke about the APH. I do not use contracts. Okay. And I used to have, I thought it was really professional, but actually, if a client doesn't want to write, I can't force that client to write in the project file. So it's not worth having contracts. I will send them a letter of understanding, which they can hold me to, but I can't hold them to anything. It makes it a much easier sell. I also charge most of it at the end. I charge £5,000 at the end, and all they pay on the way through is they pay me, well, £400 a day for the meetings, and they can have as many or few meetings as they like. It's difficult putting this sort of money in black and white. In fact, I use a phrase here that someone may recognize. Right, this is my brochure. Writing your life story is a significant milestone, akin to planning your estate or hosting a large anniversary party.
Oh, beautiful words.
Engaging experienced professionals in writing, editing, and design is not inexpensive. The result, however, is a priceless heirloom of the highest quality, created to last countless generations. It is good, isn't it? Because I didn't write it, but someone else here did write it. Any hands up, Sarah? I stole this from your yeah? Do you recognize it, Sarah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's from Sarah. This is the thing with APH, and I did ask you, and thank you that you did say, yeah, I can use it, because it's difficult trying to. The biggest difficulty I find is I get a phone call and people ask how much it is, and it's very difficult trying to say on the phone. Face to face, it's much easier, because by that stage they've seen a book, they've seen you, they've built a rapport with you. And actually, and the 5,000 is at the end. So, okay, they can stop at any time without penalty. So that is an easier sell. But it is, there's no way of, to get round it. $10,000-15,000 is a lot of money. You all know that there are some people who can pay that out of small change. For other people, it's a total no-no. And you also come across people who are very wealthy and they still don't want to pay that sort of money. So it depends on how they value their family and their life, and there's so many other things. But it is tricky. But by back ending it, it makes it so much easier. And often you can say, "I'll give you the first meeting free," or normally what I say is, "Let's have a trial meeting." My meetings are from 10 till 4. So it's a 6-hour meeting. It's a long time. I say to you, on the first meeting, by lunchtime, we'll have a chat. And if you decide it's not for you, I'll disappear and it won't cost you anything. If you carry on to the end of the day, then we pay the daily fee. So they've got a way of trialing it. But that is the biggest difficulty, is putting the money in black and white. I mean, I'm much more confident now, because actually I don't want all the customers. So I'm actually saying, I might be able to find someone else for you. And I don't know if I'll be able to do this. And of course, that makes them want you all the more. So it's a tricky.
Mike, how do you ensure they're paying the 5,000? Are you holding back on the transcript or the manuscript?
No. But they only get the book. They've had any number of manuscripts by that stage. They wouldn't necessarily have it digitally, although they could. I mean, by that stage, you've built such a rapport with them.
I can see that.
I mean, in over 300 books, I've been let down twice.
Okay.
Which is not bad. It's not.
And were those the two dead people?
No, they weren't. But it's very interesting. One of those who had died, she hadn't told her son how much it was because she was embarrassed. And he found all the documentation when she died, and he got in touch and said, please finish it.
Oh,
Oh my
sweet.
gosh, that's
What,
lovely.
Mike, can you tell me what you call yourself?
I call it bound biographies because all the books initially were just leather bound. They're not now. I wouldn't call it that now, but hey, I like the alliteration, and it's done me okay for 34 years.
And what do you call yourself?
Oh, I will call myself a private biographer.
Okay, great.
Yeah, biographer for hire seems to be what people understand. It's we didn't do ourselves a favor by making up the term personal historian because nobody had ever heard of it. And who has a personal historian? But a biographer for hire, ghostwriter, they get that. I just want to say about making the sale, the phrase that I've found most helpful is to say, it's priceless. It's priceless. You cannot put a price on having your father's life story and his voice in those transcripts. So it isn't a question of what's it worth. It's a question of what I need to charge to be able to do what I do and what you have available and intend to put towards this project. And if there's a fit between those two, we can talk. And if there's not, there are inexpensive ways that involve more do it yourself. And if you are looking more for a larger bespoke project, there are ways we can do it, we can do this expensive.
I was on a program called Dragon's Den. I think you call it something else,
right.
the lions, whatever.
Yeah.
And there was one of the 4 dragons that I was identifying, and I knew he loved his father so much. And I said to him, and I held up a book, and I said, if this book was written by your father and your house was burning down, I guarantee it's the one thing you'd grab on the way out.
Yeah.
Right.
And I ended up working with that guy because, yeah, as you say, priceless.
I have one thing I want to add here. I have a very good friend, Mary O'Brien Tyrell, who's also a personal historian and GAB instructor.
She was
And
one
she
of the
said,
founders. Yeah.
yeah, I want to ask you, Mike, because one of the things she said, she always gets the family engaged and she always goes to the oldest daughter because that's the keystone. If you've got the oldest daughter supporting what you're doing with the parent, then the rest of them will fall in line. So I don't know.
Certainly, it's worth checking the initial interview if anyone else needs to be involved in the decision.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, obviously, some people are quite vulnerable, and you've got to be
Right. That's what I mean.
really careful. In those situations, yes.
Okay, good.
But yeah, and I would ask that because if the family are against it or the spouse is against it, and I've found that has happened as well,
Yeah.
then it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So yes, it's worth getting them on board.
Great. Well, this is amazing. We'd like to invite people to unmute and ask any questions.
If there are other people who are
Yeah.
doing books and and using GAB in other ways besides this sort of personal history model that Mike and I have been talking about,
Ansley,
I'd love to hear about it.
Ansley has her hand up.
Okay. Lauren, put your hand up.
Okay. Well, I think it's because she's a board member. Actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So we can put those down now and go
Put
with
put the board hands down and use it. If
I just want to point out Lauren, who's just finished the GAB training, this year? What was it? March when you finished, Lauren?
Yeah.
Anyway, and talk about what you're doing and how you're using the GAB now.
So my background is in music, and I have really been on this path with life review and combining music since 2008. I did an oral history with my dad, who died shortly after, and it was just a cathartic interview, but it was very, very contrived and not authentic. And so I merged the two together. And then after I graduated, I started working at a long-term care facility and noted the enormity of loss with the residents that were transitioning into higher levels of care. So I gathered about 6 residents together, and it just had downloaded all of their favorite music, had them write down what memory came up. And that kind of, the bonding was instantaneous and just absolutely beautiful. But I didn't have the actual framework yet until I came to GAB to actually apply it. I applied it as an independent contractor, as a hospice musician in the field. and realized that what I was doing hadn't been done in the United States. This was in 2012, 13. And really, it's called Music Evoked Autobiographical Memory, which is all about the reminiscence bump. I was seeing such incredible results that I just knew that I was doing something that that was pretty special. And so basically, what has transpired since that time is I did write a book. I wrote a book about my experiences with music and life review. And again, but was always looking for that framework. So just recently, after I graduated from getting my certificate, I have proposed a pilot program to a life care, continuing care facility that have locations across 3 different states. And the whole basis of it is to do the GAB initially with residents that are either on their waiting list to get into their life care facility, because I know how there's so much grief and loss that comes up as far as loss of autonomy and all of that. Or for residents that are in independent living and they're transitioning to assisted living. And so I just proposed this a couple days ago. What makes it unique is that I am collaborating with a nurse educator. And so what we plan to do is have professional musicians actually co-facilitating the actual GAB sessions. So they're going to be curating playlists, and those playlists are going to be bringing up those memories within the reminiscence bump, which is 10 to 30 years of age. And then the same musicians, I'm going to be training them to log the activity, the engagement, the story that's associated with the song. And then after the 6 sessions of GAB, the 7th session is going to be having a actual homecoming gathering with all of the participants along with family members so that they can read their stories to their family members and also have the musicians then there play. And I'm hiring a cinematographer who's going to actually do a promotional film so that the community can utilize that as a testimonial. But the beauty of this is that the nurse educator is going to collaborate with the staff members so that all of that data that is collected as far as the memories and the favorite music can be used as that particular person begins to start showing signs of cognitive decline. And that data can be used to improve their quality of life. So it went over extraordinarily well. The director, the main director of across all 3 states, who is the vice president of brain health and memory care, where they're setting up an appointment with us, with her, so that we can discuss this, because she's all about Alzheimer's dementia and using kind of pioneering science, which the reminiscence bump really continues to be in terms of music, and because it's holistic and it's non-pharmacological, and it's all about reinforcing self-identity, and it's just a beautiful thing. So we had really a good response, and now it's just a matter of waiting to see.
It's exciting. We're all excited to wait and see what happens and get some of this research done and add to our. You all know, I'm sure Mike, you as well, the power of music. You know, we all have our favorite music from whenever that period was. She's talking about the reminiscence bump that was actually coined by Hans Schroets from the Netherlands. And it is a factor. I'm trying to think of the years. I think it's like 25 to 35 or something. There's a period that you have more memories of that period than any other period in your life.
It's
So, I
earlier
mean,
than that. I think you said 10 to
It's 10.
25, Lauren.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the adolescence and young adulthood when the
yeah,
experiences you're having are so novel, so many
right,
first-time experiences. And of course,
Exact,
those record deeply. Yeah.
right.
exactly, Sarah.
And the
Yeah.
music, I've seen videos of, people that were like have Alzheimer's, major Alzheimer's, and they play the music and they become alive. So music is a really good tool. Anyway,
It,
we're excited about that.
it is. The one thing I just wanted to add is that the part of the brain that links musical memory with autobiographical memory is really not affected by latter stages of Alzheimer's and dementia. So that's where the science is and the
Oh,
potential. Yeah. So that's why you see a lot of people singing along, even when they're unable to really string
Right.
sentences together. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting.
Wow.
Well, we really went.
Yeah, we're right at the
Anybody have anything to say? Please unmute yourself and say it.
get in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lisa.
Yeah, I didn't see the hand thing. So I just wanted that was so helpful for me. I've done tons of interviewing in my professional work over a long time, and I love that deep one-on-one. And I've done 3 oral histories that were for 2 for a good friend, a family member, and then 1 for someone that I didn't know as well. But like they've all been, I didn't get paid for them. So I've been struggling a little bit about finding my way with the classes, which I think are fine, but it's a different feel than like the deep dive. So anyway, it's been incredibly helpful for me. I just want to thank you guys. And
Great.
I love the idea of, building that relationship with someone and, hearing their deep story. And I think so many people don't ever have anyone who
To
cares.
listen. That's
Yeah,
right. To
it's a
And
listen.
so like one of the things that has animated my life is a deep interest in story, other
Yeah,
people's story.
right.
Some of my own, but other people's stories. So
it's such an
it's
honor
like
to get to do
a
this
different,
work.
a different sort of
Yeah.
trajectory of using a lot of those skills. So thank you so much, both
Oh,
Sarah and
thank you.
Mike.
Yeah, Sarah just added that it's such an honor to do this work, and that's the word I always use. I'm just
Yeah.
blown away with it. I want to share our next GAB chat will be Wednesday, May 20th. So it'll be an afternoon session. Stay tuned to your newsletters and to the forum to hear what that's about. And we hope you'll all be able to join us. And again, remember the anthology is due at the end of this month, right, Sarah?
Right.
So get your stories in and get your students' stories in.
And the survey.
And
Announce the survey.
do the survey. Do the survey. Sarah, can you
Yeah.
put it in the chat one more
I
time?
think.
Yes,
Oh,
I
I think it's
will.
in there. But
It's
anyway,
at the head of the chat, and I'll put it here at the tail
Yeah,
end
it's
of it
easier to
too.
have it at the end.
There
So
you
click
go.
on it now and it'll stay open. Otherwise, once you
it's
sign off, it's gone.
it's anonymous. You don't have to say all the things you hate about us and that go come back to
Yeah.
you.
Well,
Be true. We
with
need
new board members coming in,
right.
it's really important for us to have this
Yeah.
information about what you all need from us in terms of supporting you as instructors. So that's what it's
Yeah.
all about.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. It's always entertaining to hear you share, and you
Thank
are
you.
a wealth of information, and we're grateful to glean anything we can from you. And Sarah, thank you so much for your perspective. It was really nice to hear you both share together like that. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. It's always so great to see everybody. So thank you.
I'm going to stop
Thank
the
you.
recording.
Thank